find that the younger generation have a better requirement. I know with my son, he only purchases from companies that have some kind of form of giving back. He only purchases from companies that are environmentally mindful. And I love that. And I was just like, wow, that didn't even dawn on me when I was his age. I was just like doing something totally different. I was singing in the studios at his age, so
Yeah.
that didn't even dawn on me. I was like, well, that's not a me problem. And it is, it's all of our responsibilities.
And like I said earlier, we create our story. We create the world we want to be in, and we create our own reality. You mentioned that you love the painting behind me. So for
Oh
those,
my gosh. It's exquisite. Go to kevinroth.org. It's on there. It's exquisite. It has all the colors of my house in it. I love it.
so it's got. I'll tell you a funny story about this. This is an original painting because I sell abstract artwork, and it has some paintbrushes glued onto it, and it's very very colorful. So I had to talk about that everything is a story. I had a client who was all about being rich, all about being rich. And I was trying to tell him that that's not where it's at, and it's the story that he creates for himself. That if he thinks his life is going to be happy because he's made more money and then more money and more money, he's mistaken. So he, like everybody else, loved that painting. I said, well, let me tell you about that painting. I said, there was an abstract artist in La Jolla who was very, very well known and was shown all over the world, and he died. And I knew the person selling the paintings from the estate. He was a good friend of mine. And that painting was up for $500,000, and I was able to buy it for 50. And he said, oh my God, what are you going to do? Are you going to sell it? I said, I'm going to hold on to it because it'll become worth more and more and more and more. And he said, oh my God. I said, isn't it kind of cool though? And he said, oh, he said, yeah, man. You could really tell this guy was yada, yada, yada. I said, okay, so that's the story. Now let me tell you the real story. I went to Home Depot and spent $200 and got the paint and the wood, and I did it in about 20 minutes. And his jaw dropped, right? He said, no. I said, yeah. I said, now which story is more convincing to you? And he said, well, when it was by that famous artist for $500,000, it was like more interesting. I said, yeah, but it's a story. That painting didn't cost me more than 150, $200.
Yeah.
We believe the stories that we create, and especially here in Southern California, we're really known for
Your stories.
and, hey dude, I live in almost like a hippie town called Ocean Beach.
Oh,
And,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. We'll be out in Temecula soon. So looking forward to going out there.
oh, good.
I love Temecula. It's a really good place for different wines if you like wine. But the picture is exquisite. You're so amazingly talented. You're not only an artist musically, you're an artist with mediums and paints. So that's amazing. But as a life coach, what's your why, Kevin? Like, why did you turn your life and become a life coach?
Well, it was suggested, and then I thought, well, what do I want to do to earn a living, but not sell out and not have to worry and be stressed out? And the only thing I could think of was that the most important thing to me at that time was staying alive. So I was successful doing that, and I thought, well, maybe I can teach other people how to get through their stuff. And that was right before COVID. So then when COVID hit, everybody was stressed out except me. I wasn't stressed out at all. In fact,
I wasn't either.
yeah.
I really
So
wasn't.
my why is that it reconfirms what I believe, and my students are also teachers. They teach me, so I'm living an authentic life. And fortunately for me, I'm successful. And I'm always changing things up, and that's my why.
Yeah. How is it that you're so sage? You have so many great recommendations and suggestions on how people can really dive into themselves and change their life. Where did that come from?
Well, you mentioned Yogananda. So Yogananda is this guru, and he had a movie on Netflix called Awake, which I happened to watch while I was recovering in Kansas. And to make a long story short, he teaches self-realization. And I just got this gut feeling to look into one of his churches, having no idea, no possible clue that there'd be a Yogananda church within walking distance from my apartment in Kansas. And there was. Unheard of. And through him, I didn't find that he was my spiritual teacher permanently, but I came across two teachers, which is what I also teach. One is Ramana Maharshi. So I teach non-duality, self-realization, and also an author named Robert Wolfe, who passed away last year, who was a good friend of mine and a teacher, and he taught me about a very deep part of non-duality called ajata. So I found that those teachings correlated with science, quantum physics, and made perfect sense. And when I applied the principles, they made my life easy.
Yeah.
That's what I use. If the person is interested in it. I have people who don't want to hear anything about it. Yeah. I have people who are in 12-step programs, and I know those very well, and I teach from that perspective. Christians, Jews, Buddhists, whoever you are, whatever you come to me with, even if you're an atheist, I can teach the exact same principles in the way that you need to hear them. Because they're very basic.
Yeah. Yeah. And the simplicity of it just, some people, when I'm working with people, they're just like, it can't be this easy. And I was like, hate to tell you, it is. We just overcomplicate everything. It's just like making a decision. There are only two choices: do it or don't do it, yes or no, forward or backwards. We just kind of code it as the visual I get with all this other junk that is really irrelevant. And I know when I went to law school, I went because I love the way lawyers think, not because I wanted to be a lawyer, but I love the way they think, because they push all the junk aside and they get right to the issue, is really how they're taught to think. And that's what this is about, is just finding the simplicity. And I bring it back to just find the joy in the day, find the joy and trust your higher power, however you refer to that higher power, and trust, because that God, your higher power source, has your back, so and there's a reason why something's being handed to you. And if we could just figure out, like, what am I supposed to learn, and ask ourselves that question, that would be added question to your 3 questions. And I love the 3 questions you ask in your book between the notes of what really matters, why does it matter, and what are you going to do about it? I love that you add that. I would ask one more question when you have a challenge, is what am I supposed to learn? And that always helps me get out of my ego and into my observer to go, what is it I'm supposed to learn? And like you, our clients, our students teach us too. So there are very many times that, has this happened to you, Kevin, where you tell something to someone and go, wait a minute, that might be for me? Because that's happened many a time. I'm like, or it's for both of us. That's for me too.
Well, it's funny, because in the book there are actually more questions, or I think there are 11 essential questions, but questioning is always a good thing.
Agreed. I got in such trouble in church when I was younger for asking the nun too many questions in catechism. I got thrown out. It's the only time I ever got thrown out of school. I got thrown out, and I'll never forget sitting outside the room, shaking in my boots, because I knew I was going to get killed, not actually, by my parents for getting in trouble like that, because both of my parents were teachers. They were both musicians, very, very, church going, religious. I'm spiritual, but I remember sitting there and watching my mom and hearing the clicking of her heels down this long hallway to me. And I was like, I'm dead. I'm just grounded for life. That's it. I'm done. And she went in, she goes, you stay here. And I'm like, but, and she's like, no, we'll talk in a minute. She goes in, seemed like forever. She comes out, she goes, let's go. And I was like, but, and she's like, no. And we got into the car, and I'm just sitting there. My heart, I still remember to this day, my heart was pounding, and, I got dry mouth, the whole 9 yards. And she turned to me and she goes, so I understand you were asking a lot of questions. And I said, yeah. And I got in trouble for it. And you always said, and she went, stop. You did the right thing. You continue to ask your questions, and totally understands what you were doing as long as you were polite. And I said, I really was. And she said, the nun said you were polite, but you were driving her nuts with all the questions, mostly because she didn't have some of the answers. She didn't know how to answer it. She did have the answers, but she didn't know how to answer it. But I'll never forget that day. And my mother was laughing. years later, she told me she was hysterical that I got in trouble for asking too many questions. And it's important to ask questions, because if you aren't sure, how are you supposed to make an informed decision, right?
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. So last thoughts. What would you like our listeners to know?
Well, a lot of my story is in the book Between the Notes, and I wrote that to sort of end that chapter of my life. Um, there's music, yeah, there's music, Dulcimeditation on iTunes, and I'm redoing the website. It should be up in a couple weeks, but if you want to talk with me, look at the website, and then there's a form you fill out, and I give a free 30-minute introductory consultation if people want that on Zoom. And then we decide whether we want to work together, and if not, I can guide you to other people, places, and things. And
and all the information for contact will be with this, so just look below, click on it. I'll have all the links for you.
Yeah, so I just, I love what I do, and I do what I love, and just trust that it's all going to work out.
So beautiful. I'm so grateful to have you on, Kevin. You bring so much to me, to our listeners, and to the world. So thank you so much for sticking around in this world and not choosing to go on to another one, and blessing us and gracing us with your knowledge, your sage, your music, your artistry, and everything that you do. Thank you for everything you do. I know I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful for our listeners. Thank you all for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I hope we earn the privilege of your time. Just check us out next Saturday at 3. We're always around. Until next time, I am Coach Lorianne. Play a higher role, serve a higher purpose, show up for you, and show up big. Thank you again, Kevin.